we're living what we think we should be doing, but what we want is here. And this piece in the middle is causing anxiety and health decline and addictions and all of this sort of stuff. Is this really the big thing that's making our population and our nation sick?
My ultimate aim in life is about discretionary free time. That is the definition of wealth. I know lots of people who have lots of money and are not very wealthy along that domain.
Yeah.
And so what people are looking for as true wealth is autonomous discretionary free time. And we live in a world where we have that ability continually tightened around us. It's more expensive to live in certain ways. It's harder to be able to spend more time with your family. And the reality is, as Thomas Sowell so famously says, an American philosopher, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs.
When I took ecstasy for the very first time in my life, I felt like that was it. That was the one thing that I always craved. Because it wasn't what it gave me, it was what it took away from me. And it took away my anxiety. It took away my self-confidence that I always felt like I wasn't enough. And when I had that first experience with ecstasy, it helped me to feel like I actually was enough. Helped me to feel like I didn't have to worry about being bullied or being somebody who I wasn't. I actually felt like I could be myself. And I was actually very naive to believe that when I took that ecstasy, it was going to be like that for the rest of my life. And then some fella in a nightclub said to me, "Oh no, this comes down, you have to take another one." I was only a young fella, like I was like, what do you mean you have to take another one?
What age were you then?
I think I was around 17, 18. 18, yeah.
And would you say things started to spiral from there?
Yeah, so like my drug use started off pretty late, like in regards to everybody else, you know. A lot of people start to get into that stuff from an early age. But when I got into it, I really got into it, you know. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I just loved drugs. I loved what they done for me, and I loved what they took away from me. And it always helped me to feel like everything was going to be okay until it felt like it wasn't. And then I had to use more and more and more. And then I started to get very inquisitive. I went from using ecstasy to using cocaine. And when I found cocaine, I was like, oh my God, there's another round to this whole life. Does that make sense? But I didn't know that I was just falling more into addiction. And when I got into using cocaine, it was a different experience towards using ecstasy. And I'm not trying to glorify this, I'm just giving me own representation of what it done to me. And when I started to use cocaine, I was just like, hold on for a second, I can use this in a nightclub, I can use it in a pub, I can use it back home, I can use it anywhere. And it really instilled something inside me that I was just lacking for so long. And it was a false sense of self.
Being a creative person is one thing. Being a creative person that understands how to be commercially savvy, how to run a team, how to work with people, how to market yourself. And obviously you've got the right crew around you, mentors, business partners and stuff like that. But you still have to be the head book cat that guides all of this.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I definitely, and it's a constant battle and I'm not even remotely there, is that you need to value yourself in the process. Because yes, you need to be high energy. You need to definitely be quite positive. In order to do that sincerely, you need to be pretty level with yourself. So your head and your body needs to be good and needs to be stable and nourished.
I got one day off to get married. I got one day off for my dad's funeral. I was getting my hair and makeup done at my wedding, like literally answering and even saying to somebody, "Oh, sorry, I'm just getting my hair and makeup done for my wedding," and them going, "Well, I'll only be 5 minutes." And I just realized if you are someone who shows you'll overwork, people will overwork the fuck out of you.
No, to take advantage.
They will overwork the fuck out of you. So, and you're putting out to people what you, the kind of tone at which you want to be, you know, worked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I felt like my brain, like 50% of my brain wasn't working or something. I think I actually was quite like functioning and depressed almost, you know, because when people pass away, you have a total new perception on mortality.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking about, who am I, what's going on? And I think I definitely was burnt out. It was harder to get out of bed. It was harder to stay motivated. It was harder to come up with new ideas. And I was like, fuck, am I burnt out? And I'm so used to being able to work. Like during the final year of my degree, those 3 jobs, 2 hours sleep a night, I was still able to sesh on the weekends, you know, like I had a boyfriend at the time. I was like still a mad bitch when I was doing all of that. And then you start to think you can do that for the rest of your life, but you can't. So
it catches up with you. How long do you think that period of burnout lasted for you?
I think I'm probably still a little bit in it, if I'm honest. And I think that's also getting older. I think that's why I don't work the Mondays and Fridays. Like, not, and I think burnout, people imagine you like under a black cloak, like under a bridge, but it's not. It's more that you're cautious.
Yeah.
And you're more like, no. When you get in from a disco when you're young and you can still hear the music.
Yeah.
And you know that feeling. Everyone knows that feeling that's been to a disco. Burnout is that, but it's not music, it's your emotions.
Yeah.
That is
they're
burnout.
knocking on your door.
That's right before, that's just before you know. You need to calm down, turn the music down.
What strategies do you use to combat burnout? Because I think burnout for artists is different to burnout for someone who's in an office or anything else. Because your burnout, you may physically be perfect, but mentally just not have that little magic dust that you need to create something beautiful. How do you stay motivated and combat that burnout?
I've been working for myself for 10 years. So I registered a company in 2015. And for the first 3 years, I definitely worked like 6 or 7 days a week, just nonstop, working. And I think that was actually necessary. Anyone who started a business probably knows that's actually necessary for a bit. But then because you're tying your financial well-being with your like artistic output, those things get really muddy. And you're like, if I'm not creating, does that mean I'm nothing? Does that mean I'm a worthless person? So like trying to get out of that cycle is really hard. So I think I've managed to detach a good bit. I'm like, it's also just a job now. And I do other things in my life. Like I started doing dance lessons.
I will.
And it was just like doing something that's artistic, but no pressure. You're not making money out of it. You don't have to be really good. The pressure to be very good or, good enough is hard.
When nothing's kind of handed to you, like I'm working since I was 13. Like if I wanted to go to the cinema, I got a job in a deli. Like so I used to put the jacket on over my school uniform and be like cutting meat and then like run out and go to the cinema. I think I've always just been like, if I want it, there's no one else getting it for me. And then, I don't know, then I started being like, oh, I want more. And it's not money at all. It's like, even with the working, I want to be able to go to the gym during the week. I want to be able to feel like fresh. When I have days off, I feel more creative. I'm thinking about more stuff. Like I'm studying a night course at the moment and I wouldn't have had time to do that before. Slowing down is putting yourself first,
Yeah, I agree with that. And space and time and that doing nothing space is extremely important because your brain slows down perhaps and it's not, you sleep, you recover, you look after all of those things. But being able to carve that out is the balance and trying to find that. I'm kind of in the phase of a different phase again where I'm back shoulder to the wheel in the trenches. And like my capacity to make, big steps and make big decisions, I have to like stop, sit down, think before I can get there.
For me, I could have continued on my career as an interventional cardiologist and been paid very, very large sums of money. But I realized that to do that for me would have meant compromising my highest values in terms of how I spend my time with my family, in terms of time in nature and do those things. And so I was willing to sacrifice all that prestige, all the time I had invested and the money that goes with it, because I valued those things higher. And as I said, I had to go back down the mountain, continue my training and pay a huge price for it. But the price to going in the other direction would have been far higher. And so for me, a lot of it is about shutting out external noise. It is about I'm going to paraphrase, I think it's Charles Bukowski who said it, the American author. He says, who were you before the world told you who you should be?
Yeah, that's a super one.
And so the reality is most people are the worlds that they should be. And so when you strip away all the external noise, all those cues to tell you who you should be, and you say, listen, okay, fundamentally, who am I, what am I about, and what are my goals and objectives? And then you can prioritize those and say, listen, okay, what do I need to sacrifice? And you will have to sacrifice something. What do I need to sacrifice to maintain those things as my highest order preference? And if they truly are your highest order preference, if they are representations of your internal values, and you really believe that they are your why for doing things, the how becomes so much easier to do. It doesn't make it easy to do it, but you can make decisions in terms of maybe where you live, maybe the type of job that you're doing. There's a lot of people who work in roles and they fundamentally know that they're doing it not because they really like it, but maybe it pays adequate amounts of money for them to work a certain job, but they're paying a price that is substantial. And maybe you have to reevaluate, the type of job that you do. I had to. But I would say arguably that has been the biggest determinant of my happiness and health, was actually giving up a very kind of prestigious job.
This episode of Find Your Edge is brought to you by Hedgehogs vs. Foxes, a video production studio crafting bold, cinematic content for brands in lifestyle, corporate, events, and more. Visit us at hvf.ie to learn more.
Would you say failure played a role in your growth then as well? That it was part of the process? If you kind of zoom out now,
Yeah.
which is easy to do, and look back,
Yeah.
you feel like failure was part of that journey as well?
Oh, I failed with things I was trying to set up like 2 years ago. Failing is kind of part of it. What I'd say is definitely going back to that feeling the need to prove thing, that also comes like perfectionism. Okay, so that comes like, if I can just be perfect and do this perfectly, then everything will be wonderful, right? So you put all your goals in this one perfect thing. So when you fail, that smashes. And then it's kind of a relief
Wow.
because it's like, oh, I'm still here.
Okay, I get you.
Maybe you shouldn't try to be perfect. Maybe there is no perfect time.
Striving for perfection is a nice way to be, but like if you,
Not if you become fixated with it, because then it paralyzes you. Like I've been trying to do a collaboration with a company, I won't say, for a while. It's something I've dreamt about for years, and I've had an opportunity to do it since the start of this year, and I paralyzed myself
really,
only to do it last week.
oh, well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
But paralyzed because I was trying to make it so perfect that I couldn't do it. So perfect can be bad, but I think failing actually makes you realize, oh, it's actually okay.
I need things written in front of me. I'm one of those people, I need to like write it on my face or on my hand, so I'll probably get the message in. But something in my life that I've had to always deal with was imposter syndrome, where I'm learning, do I belong in this position? I come from a family that's quite different to yours in the sense, and there's nothing right or wrong with that. But whereas like, stay-at-home mom, I got hand-me-down clothes. I set up my own business, but always had this level of going, I don't really belong here. And I'd speak to somebody who was successful in business or who had money in their bank account, and I wouldn't be able to relate to that.
Yeah.
And exercise and events and sports and fitness. I ran a marathon recently. We were sitting in the lead pack across the burn, and I remember having this moment going, I don't belong here. These guys are all fit. I'm not. This conversation started going in my head, and I had to rewrite that story, and I have it written on my water bottle, you belong here, because when I'm sitting in front of you and all the other guys out in the race, I'm going to go, that same conversation is going to come back up again.
I left animation college and I couldn't get a job in the studio. And I got it. I was like, I've just spent 2 years learning this. And now I can't get any jobs. So I decided to set up a business as an illustrator. I was like, well, I'll just do that. Not really knowing what it meant to set up a business, all the steps that you needed, how hard it is. But that was like a definite setback that turned into a nice thing.
Into a spring forward.
Yeah. So I've had quite a long journey to get to this point. But the biggest obstacle is definitely like imposter syndrome.
Okay.
Yeah, hands down, that's the worst. It's so bad. So like there was definitely a period up to I was about 34 where I was just like, I'm not good enough. Okay, I'm not good enough. No, nothing I ever do is going to be good enough. And trying to defeat that, it's really difficult.
What was your strategy?
Do you know what I thought about? We're going to die, right? We're all going to die. And I was like, you might as well just give it a go before you die.
What's the worst that can happen?
I ruptured my ACL, LCL, my hamstring, and then the surgeon said you're just better off getting hit by a truck.
Okay, so walk away from it.
So yeah, I basically went on the piss for a year. I ballooned up in weight, and that's why I got involved in boxing, just literally to lose weight. That's all it was.
Okay.
When I was younger, I used to think I had something, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't put my finger on it. And I remember going into the boxing gym, and I remember Pascal that runs Cordova Boxing Gym, and I wasn't that talented boxer, but he was like, Sean's a very hard worker. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, I just work really hard and I never give up. That's the only thing that I have. You know what I mean? What do I have? All I have is hard work, and I don't give up. And that's, for me, is you either have it or you don't. You can't teach someone, are you motivated? Can you dig in at times? Because people, I believe, if you break, like I said, you're always going to break. You have this kind of innate nature to you. So I believe it's an individual thing, but it can be learned through experience. If you go through difficult moments, so like it's not like, okay, I messed up once and I gave up and that's it. I can't ever achieve something. I think if you overcome that by doing something very difficult and not giving up, then you can build on that, and then you can become.
It's a muscle.
I suppose one thing that sport teaches anyone, whether it's team sport, individual sport, is you'll mess up and you kind of have to go back and keep trying. So like the analogy I always use is wakeboarding. Like to learn a trick, you have to like fall 100 times. And so you just keep getting setback, but you just kind of have to pop up. Like you literally pop out of the water and you're like, right, next try. And then you might watch a video and figure out like what went wrong there and analyze it a little bit. But yeah, I think it's kind of stuck through. So even like every single day in work, something goes wrong. Like I always say, like I'm a little bit of a fireman in terms of like, problem happens, like you'll film something, the audio didn't work or whatever, and you just kind of have to assess that and then kind of try and move forward from it. So yeah, I definitely think it's taught me a lot in that respect.
Dark days, I do believe that we all have dark days, and there's a decision that we make to either like lean into that and say this is just how I am, or change it. Have you a strategy that you've used? Do you think one thing aside from supplementation of any description, but an internal conversation or a mindfulness or something that you do or say to yourself that takes you out of that place, or that has rewired your brain?
Every day, I have a very simple morning routine. I get up early, I go to the gym. I typically, after my workout, I do workout 4 days a week. I'll do a sauna, and in the sauna, I'll try my best to meditate for 5 or 10 minutes in the sauna. And the meditations can vary and what I'm doing with them. And I'm very much into visualizing me being at my absolute potential and seeing myself smiling and seeing myself in my power, if you will. And I have a load of different mantras I say to myself constantly now. And I believe in the power of words. I believe in.
How did you learn all of this?
Well, you probably know the guy, Jerry Hussey. I've come across Jerry, and I was struggling a lot trying to, at one stage, comparing myself to others, particularly people who are more successful than me, and thinking that they had it all figured out and I hadn't got it all figured out, because I was still, angry at myself, or I was still thinking negatively. And then I heard him say one day that, every top performer, whoever it is, thinks the same way about them all the time. It's just that they have a strategy around dealing with it.
I went from ecstasy to cocaine. I went from cocaine to weed. I went from weed to tablets, and I was always trying to look for that next high. And ultimately, it led me to smoking crack cocaine. And when I started to smoke crack, my mind just broke in an instant, and I lost my mind. And I was entered into a state of psychosis. And when I was in this state of psychosis, I couldn't correlate what was real and what was fake. And I was just in this battle with my own mind. And I ended up fleeing the country. When I fled the country, I went over to England, and I was sleeping in bushes because I couldn't stay in hotels, because in my mind there was a hitman coming to shoot me. And my family were in on this master plan with this hitman coming to shoot me. And they were trying to get me a hotel. I was like, these cunts are trying to set me up. I'm sleeping in a bush. Fuck this. Nobody's going to know where I am. And it was just probably the worst time in my life. During that moment, in psychosis, you're in it, immersed in it, terror, pain, all those negative emotions. And then for a little while, you're out of it. And then you're like, hold on for a second. Am I actually mentally ill here? Well, all those things that I was thinking, seeing, feeling, actually something that was just by happenstance. And I started to fight with the two. And then I started to speak to my family, and they all started saying to me, look, we promise you, you're mentally ill here. Like, your mind is gone, you're in psychosis. And it was my first time also hearing about psychosis. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't understand what was going on, but I knew I needed help. And at the right time, a friend of mine had rang me and said, have you ever went to treatment? And I said, no. And he said, well, I've went to Ashray, and it helped to save my life, so I could probably do the same to you. And as soon as I got home, I just rang them and I told them that I need help and I need it as soon as possible.
What was treatment like?
It was the worst experience of my life at the start, and then it was the best thing that I've ever discovered. Because as soon as I went in, there was nobody giving me the time of day that everybody else would. Because people used to always entertain me, because they didn't want to be confrontational with me. If you tried to speak with an addict, and an addict is trying to tell you their way, and you're trying to tell them the actual way it is, they'll just fight you tooth and nail on it. Nobody wanted to ever fight with me because obviously I was a fucking nuisance, you know what I mean? But in treatment, they tell you, like, you're speaking like this, and you're acting like this, and it has fucking consequences. And nobody ever spoke to me like that before. First of all, I was terrified. I was like, what the fuck? Like, first of all, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? And second of all, I was wrong. And I realised I was wrong. And then from realising I was wrong, I just understood that, hold on for a second, if I was the one who fucked my whole life up, I'm the one who can rectify it. And from that very day, I made sure that I rectified it, because I was always trying to manipulate and control each and every single person around me, when in reality I was just destroying everything. I lost my daughter, I lost my girlfriend, I lost my family, I lost my mental health, and I just lost my whole mind, you know. And from being in treatment, actually experiencing what it's like to hear all the destruction that you've caused, just helped me to grow.
How long were you in treatment for?
So I went to primary treatment and I went to secondary treatment. And primary treatment is 28 days, where basically you're taught the parameters of how to act, how to behave, and how your addiction works. Everything to do with psychology, and that really helped me. And at the end of the 28 days, you get the option then to go to secondary treatment. And they had offered me to go to secondary treatment, and at the time I was very upset, and I was very, very lost, because I just wanted to go home and be the dad to my daughter, who I hadn't been. And I made the decision to go to secondary treatment. That was probably the best decision, once again, that I made. And that's one thing that helped me to realise that you don't need to have it all figured out straight away. You just need to keep doing the next best thing. And before you know it, it'll all work out.
Sobriety has allowed me to think bigger, to want to achieve more, and to want to live my life more and better. And that for me is I get a kick out of it.
And that's success, in my view. So you said you feel alive when you do these events, and you need to kind of find the edge, or challenge yourself to really feel that and get to that. And like the argument for me, so I've had a toxic relationship with alcohol when I was 19. I was writing cars off drink driving, and I've had my fair share of overindulging. And when I look back and reflect on that time in my life, I was trying to find the edge. I was trying to feel alive. I was trying to find that euphoric hit of literally not being able to sit still, walking into a room with someone else. And I like you, for a long time, I'm a little bit older than you, and a couple of years ago I remember living thinking that way, going, I fucking regret that I did all that. I regret that I pushed myself to that level, and I regret that I hurt people, and I regret that I did it. But it's truly in that regret, there's also the piece of going, well, I would not appreciate where I am right now.
It's what makes you grow. Yeah.
And that's it. And that's a big message to take from all this, that it's only at the edge that you find how to grow. If you're hanging out in the middle piece, and that's my biggest fear in life. Yeah. So yours, you need to experience and live it. But my fear is that I am that person who just, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this is for me, it's that I don't get to find the edges of what my physical and mental capacity is.
Yeah. And that's like, when, not to be boring, but when I gave up drinking, I went from looking at people who do incredible things differently, right? So I would see them before and be like, how boring, right? But like in reality, I was thinking, God, I wish I could do that.
I define health across the optimization of 3 domains. Lifespan, how long you used to live. Health span, your ability to move and think in the world, i.e. the avoidance of dementia. And then soul span is about kind of the meaning and purpose of the time that you have at that high quality. So quite frankly, the first 2 domains are really in service of the third. The reason that we want to live long and healthy lives with a high functional capacity is that we can spend more time engaging with the world in a way that we find meaningful and purposeful. I think it is the highest priority. It is, as Nietzsche says, he who has a why can bear almost any how. So Nietzsche said this and became, I suppose, very much popularized by Viktor Frankl in his book, The Man's Search for Meaning, who's a psychiatrist who spent 4 years in Nazi concentration camps. And so we all find ourselves in places in life, but I think it is our future goals, which becomes our why, and our story is the thing that motivates us to do the things that we have to do in the present. I have no interest in living longer for the sake of living longer. I have no interest in being kind of having a higher percentile in muscle mass or muscle strength. I have no interest in, staving off dementia for their intrinsic purposes. The reason I do those things is so that I have more time at a high quality to do what I believe is meaningful and purposeful for me. And that goal is quite individualized for each individual person. So the concepts of lifespan and health span, they are born out of our scientific understanding of the studies that we have best evidence, so we can apply it and we can say, listen, if you hit the 75th percentile or above within these particular metrics, you stand to increase the probability of living longer at a high quality. But in terms of how we go about understanding soul span, in terms of how you're going to spend your time, that is a very individualized outcome for everybody.
Yep.
But there is a formula, I believe, that you can apply to it to help people give the framework to think about how to solve it. And so that is going back to kind of the tenets of philosophy, music, art, literature. It's about understanding who you are and why you're here.